You guys are pretty good. You don't have a side conversation.
What is a side conversation?
Were you like chatting on the side as I'm trying to talk?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Oh, I promise you. Brandon knows what side conversation. It's Fernanda. Who else was still? Are they back?
I'm not that good.
Maybe. Okay. Oh. All right, thank you guys. Sorry for the confusion there. Beginning of class. Magic fingers. Magic fingers. All right. So I'm sorry that we missed that whole week before break, but we're going to do some really cool stuff with immigration. And what an appropriate time to talk about immigration, right? What's going on? So there is a religious entity out there trying to destroy America. They are breaking down American values. They're taking away our freedom. They are sending their poor. They are sending criminals into this country to cause chaos. They are ruining our democratic values. Who am I talking about? Hold on, don't shout out. This is some good hands. I want everyone to ponder for a moment. Who is breaking down this country's values? Think today, think historically. Brandon? Syria, interesting. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. ISIS. Colleen, or Connie. I owe you a donut. According to Donald Trump. Amy, did you have one? Shot? All right, so you guys are all right. This is something that's definitely a theme today that some people believe. But it was also exactly how Americans back in the later 1800s viewed Catholicism and the Irish and Italian immigrants that were coming in. The Pope was sending over unskilled laborers. The Pope was sending over missionaries to break down the American Anglo-Saxon system. So here's a wonderful image for us. I can make this screen a little bigger. Come up if you need to. Let's take a moment to look at this. Think about, who is this group? What is this? What are these? Take about 30 seconds. Let me see if I can make it brighter. Ooh, crocodiles.
Those are alligators.
Alligators. But I don't know.
Crocodiles are white interior.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
I don't know. White. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't like the black and white image?
No, he said crocodiles are white.
are they white?
He said those are alligators.
All right, thank you. Let's come back on track. So, what are these? It's alligators, but what's it look like?
That's the Pope hat.
It's the Pope hat, right? Or bishops. So these alligators are representing the Catholics coming to destroy the U.S. It says U.S. public school, and it's being torn down by Catholicism. The church was trying to take over education. So we have these immigrants, and they're coming in waves. It was not because the Pope was trying to take down America and overtake the country. It was for other reasons. Let's reflect back to before break, before I got sick. Why do people migrate? Take a moment, ponder it, turn and talk to your neighbor, come up with 2 reasons. Go.
Money.
And of course,
a lack of potato famine in the other area.
Did you, wait, what's your name? Yeah, you got that article. All right, about 5 more seconds.
Oh my gosh, Mommy sent back.
And 3, 2, 1. Sophia, what did you guys come up with? Why do people migrate?
A couple says like famine, job opportunities, migrating to persecution.
Oh yeah, avoiding persecution, job opportunities, big. Yes.
So it's just the general idea of all that, so like push and pull factors.
Push and pull factors. Excellent number. That's right. Round of applause. Push and pull factors. Remember those posters? We still have it up there. We have, what is that one? Waves of Jews. And then that one I can't read over there.
Oh, U.S. history?
No.
All right. So moving on. So thank you for the refresher there on push and pull factors. So our learning objective today, you want to get this in your notes. And dear Kendall, would you please read that aloud for us? What? Oh, you're chewing? I'm sorry. Christine?
I can annotate oral historical accounts of employees working at Ellis Island so that I can understand the limitations and values of testimony for instance, the immigration process of the transition.
Thank you. It's over. Sorry, I turned on the light so you guys can put it over here. All right. What is oral history? What is an oral historical account mean for Nanda? Spoken. Paul?
Maybe the written speeches or testaments
Speeches, testaments,
something that can be recorded.
Yep. There we go. What'd you say?
Something that can be directly recorded.
Something directly recorded. So who's doing the recording? What's actually happening during this process for an oral history? Who? Cormac, is that you? Interviewer, right? Way back when I was in college, and I went to school in the Northeast, and we had a lot of French immigrants, right? Miss Lamity, her family came from that, coming in from French Canada into Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. And what was pulling them there? Think back to the 1800s. Money, right? Job opportunities, all the manufacturing going on. So when I was in college, we did interviews with French Canadians. Trying to get what was that? Okay.
I'll try to hold you in the call.
All right, take about 10 more seconds to look that up. So, job opportunities. That relates to economics, right? So economic factors that cause migration, immigration.
Yes, please. All right.
So, all right, if you're finishing up, just take a look at that back one. Sorry, I want to get on.
That one hurts my eye.
So economic factors. The lights back off?
No.
We vampires? Yes.
Teenagers with the same thing.
I ain't finished.
Ow!
You know what? I'm sorry I did. Oh, that is much better. Okay. So economic factors for migration. This is really important for the exam, guys. This is going to be an aspect of your essay that we'll go over later. So I hope you get this in your notes. Because of unlimited wants, meaning we want to better ourselves academically, consumeristically, right, with materials. There are limited, and with limited resources, meaning there's only so much food you can grow on a land, only so much education you might be able to get in a certain area, people make decisions that influence migration. So with any decision, people analyze the cost and benefits before making their decision. So here you are in Eastern Europe. There's a lot of war, turmoil going on. Family's like, you know what? This is kind of rough. I think we need to move. And we hear like America has these steamships, their borders are open. What are the costs and benefits you think that are going through a family in the later 1800s minds when they think about immigration? Possibility, in terms of
Opportunity.
what? Is it reasonable, right? Are they, they're gonna have to save enough money? What if at the borders, one of them is sick and they get stuck there? What if they, it's a pretty treacherous journey across the ocean back then. What if they die? They have to leave their friends and family? They get shot? What? Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. I like that. So for a lot of families, the benefit outweighs the cost, right? So just, you don't need to write this down, but it's just a little refresher from before the break, early 1900s. Primarily the immigrants were from
Canada.
Europe, and only 1% was Latin America back then. Today, our 2007 Census Bureau is 54% Latin American, 27% Asian, 13% European, and 4% from Africa. Charlie, do you remember which is the immigrant group that is predicted to become the largest group of immigrants? Yeah, Asians, right? So this is already outdated. There's that article. I did post it online. If you guys want to read what the other group, that poster, it's really fascinating. The study just came out last month. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a second. So where did people come through? Yeah, when they get on the ships, where are they landing in the U.S. now?
Ellis Island.
Thank you, Brandon. I can save there. Ellis Island.
Yeah.
So this was actually something I did not know. I learned this just this morning. That before 1890, states had their own immigration processes. So Maine, they had their own little thing about who they were letting in from Canada, the French Canadians. Miami had their own thing. California had their own policies in regards to Chinese immigration that primarily came through there. So in 1890, it became federalized. Is that a word? Federalized?
I'm gonna call it for you.
Yeah, okay, we're going with it. So so money was set aside for Ellis Island. The first day in 1892, Ellis Island came to be 3 large ships with around 700 people in one day. 700 people. That's bigger than my town in Wyoming. I'm dead serious. I think we're up to like 650 right now.
Hey.
We'll talk later.
Did you really?
All right. All right, back to Ellis Island and terrible things, imagining being on those ships. And by 1892, over 405,000 immigrants were processed through Ellis Island. That's 80% of the national total. So the peak year, 1907, over 1 million people processed just through Ellis Island. And look at that. How many were processed in one day? 11,000.
11.
Yeah, that's like, that would be a pretty good turnout, I think, for the Nuggets this year. They got 11,000 fans. 'Cause what is that, like 14,000 there or something?
Wait, it's off the coast of right?
Ellis Island? Oh, it's in New York. So,
I told you guys New York.
I said it better. If I said New York.
Same.
we're all right. All right. 40% of Americans can trace their roots through Ellis Island. Raise your hand if you know your family at some point, you had some lineage through there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got some. My family came over on many levels,
Yeah, mine.
and as was the case for a lot of immigrant groups back then, they wanted to assimilate right away. They wanted to Americanize themselves. So my family got rid of their Jewish last name. Yep. So people would often, that's when a lot of the assimilation started. We'll go over that more tomorrow. Oh, I gave this one away. What was the West Coast?
Angel Island.
Hey, good one.
the West Coast, Ellis Island as a
So is that where like
Magic cover.
Asians?
Ellis Island, 1892.
Okay.
So 1892 was Ellis Island. Angel Island started in 1905, a little behind the times. And they only handled up to 2,500 immigrants in a day. Small potatoes.
I get it.
Potato famine, small potatoes.
I
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Pardon? 1892. So Ellis Island was 1892, and just over 10 years, Angel Island.
Bless you.
Wait.
All right.
I got right finger.
So, when immigrant groups were coming from these ships, traveling long distances through parts of Europe, primarily through Ellis Island, it was Irish, Italians, Eastern European Jews, Germans. Do you think they had a lot of stuff with them?
No.
No, man.
Maybe a backpack.
Yeah, pretty much. It's sort of like remember carpetbaggers from Reconstruction era?
Yeah.
Tie everything up, put it over your shoulder. One of the readings, actually the only reading I'm gonna have you guys do this week, talks about that and the immigrant experience coming through Ellis Island. Are we ready? Yes. All right, so let's look over this together and try to understand this immigration trend. So we have over here, I know this is hard to see, 1820s. Climbing. Oh, it gets pretty high in 1850s. What was happening in Europe in the 1850s? Actually, the later 1840s. Not yet. Later 1840s, so before the Civil War.
Oh, they had the Jews.
Well, that's true. So specifically, one of the reasons why this is so large was the Irish potato famine, right? So that was 1848 to 1849. So 1860s it drops a little bit.
Why?
They were able to make potatoes. There's various reasons.
Oh,
We were also at war then. 1870s goes up. Holy tamale! It's peaking in the 1880s, 1890s.
why? They had the Jews.
Why? What? Jonelle, what?
They had the Jews.
The Jews? What did you say? Wait,
Sure.
Jewish immigrants and Italian immigrants. So during this period in Eastern Europe, who was the waves? Was the waves of Jews this class? Jewish?
Yeah.
There were groups called, do you remember what they were called that attacked Jewish villages?
The Pope.
Not quite.
But they were called pogroms. And they were
What were they called?
state-sponsored pogroms. P-O-G-R-O-M-S.
Oh, I thought it was pilgrims.
Hold on, back together. So they were state-sponsored attacks on Jewish villages. Between 1880s and 1910, 1920, 1/3 of the Jewish population from Europe fled to America. So that's definitely part of this. There was also some war, there was some conflict going on in Italy. So that's when we saw the larger group of Italians coming over. So they were all leaving Europe. And so here, during the peak year, 1907 specifically, 8 million immigrants out of a population of 72 million for the US right there. That's like almost, I'm doing math in my head.
It's one night.
1/9? 1/9. That's a pretty significant portion. Ah, yeah, I think it does. So it's like the whole state of Colorado. All right, so look at this. We go from 8 million to about 20 years later, 1930s, not even a million, only 699,000. So Malachi, you think one factor is the Great Depression? Could have been part of it. The Great Depression was in the 1930s. 1924 is when.
How do you explain the 1940s?
Why the 1940s were so low? Part of it. So what happened in 1924 is the US government finally just said, you know what? This is too much de-Americanizing in terms of breaking down Anglo-Saxon values. Additionally, weren't as many jobs, less opportunity. The West had, at this point was developed, not as much land. So this is what 1924 they started issuing quotas. So barring immigrant groups from coming over. And unfortunately, that coincided with World War II, when late 1930s, early 1940s, and what was happening in Europe in 1940s, late 1930s, the Holocaust, right? So it barred a lot of Jewish immigrants from coming over, and Italians and Germans, anyone who didn't like the Nazis. And then the 1960s is when they relinquished that quota. I mean, we still have immigration policies. And today, we have about 10 million immigrants a year. What?
A year?
A year.
That's a lot.
You mean in 10 years? Or like
You
a
mean
million a year?
Like 10 million, yeah, I think about 3 million a year. About 10 million over the course of 10 years.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I know, I'm sorry.
A million.
But think about this. What's the US population today? 320 million about.
Yeah.
Only 10 million of 320 million.
Wow.
Compared with back then, 8 million out of 72. So immigration is such a hot topic, but in context, it's not like it was back then.
Technically.
Oh.
Go ahead. Hey, freeze. Hey, freeze. Should I get him? Freeze.
Go get him.
Go get him. Nah.
Sure, you want it, okay.
Hit him with the tag.
All right, come back together real quick.
Hold on, wait, let me look at this real quick.
All right, while you look at that, and form your argument. So the same study that Pew Research did predicts that by year 2025, you're going to have our fourth major wave of migration, specifically from Asia and Africa.
Wow.
So they're expecting another sharp increase that compares with the ones in the early 1900s. Yes, Brandon, go.
So 10 million is how many people came in over that time?
Yes.
There were already people there before that though, right? Before those 10 years, there are people older than 10 that have been there. So it's also an addition to that.
Go ahead, Brandon.
So it's more than 10 million.
The next, all right, I'll finalize that in a moment. We gotta get going. So this is, one last question. Hi?
Why are Asian people?
What?
Why are Asian people?
You know, that's a great question. I'm trying to remember exactly from the study. Part of it is China opened up, overcrowding, right? But you know what? Why don't you write that down, Kai, so I can look into that. All right, let's look at how immigration. Oh. Waiting. So let's look at how immigration changed the landscape of America. Who do you think this blue group is? Look at all this. Look at all this blue. Well, they're Americans, but where can they trace their ancestry? Germany. Absolutely. Who? All right, the pink down here, California. Yeah, Texas. Hispanic. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Yep. And over here, this dark purple.
Australia.
African American. I know.
But I don't think they came here willingly.
This light purple.
That is.
Canada.
Light purple and blue. English. And the blue. Think about what I was talking about at the beginning of class. French. Absolutely. We have Puerto Rican down here. And then New Jersey, New York.
Italian.
It's Italian. Oh man, you're like all over this.
I know that one too.
Ah.
Me and Paul is one world.
Oh, so very interesting. So, I couldn't find the log from my family when they came over from Ellis Island, but this is a census done in 1900. This was in Wisconsin? No. Oh my gosh, I totally already forgot. Wisconsin? Yeah, Wisconsin, there we go. And this is my family, my great grandmother, Verda Vogel. Isn't that a wonderful name? She was 1 year old back then. She actually lived at 6th and Bel Air. So she was here in Denver. And she had to put, well, she was 1 year old, so she didn't. But back then hold on. What? All right. So back then, on a Census Bureau, you would have to put down where you were born, where your mother was born, where was your father born. Her mother, born in Denmark. Her father, from Austria. And you can't see it, and I'm so bummed about it, but if you look at this one section of a census from Milwaukee, or Wisconsin, I think, it's primarily German and Denmark. Yeah, so it's pretty fascinating.
I can't
Community
read.
secondary. Yeah, you can't see that. Okay. So, let me see. Okay, perfect. Let's, do you want to let in some light? No, it's okay. We're going to go over the exam. Because I'm going to give you guys some of the information before so you can prepare for it. Friday. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Are we gonna have any notes?
Industrial, what?
Do you have any notes?
Study guide?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes. I think I said that in the beginning. What? Yeah, so it's the study guide we've been working on. Okay, let's go back together, because this is super important, and I don't want there to be any confusion. You can only use sources from this class to write your essay. And your essay is, this is on the website. I posted the rubric, so if you want to get this in your notes, that's fine. Kendall, can you read that for us now?
Assess the validity of the following statement, issues around immigration with The study issue based by immigration industry.
Oh yeah, and I corrected that on the rubric. So you're going to be looking at social and economic outcomes from immigration and industrialization, and sort of not debating, but creating a thesis. How much are issues social and economic outcomes from back then similar to social and economic outcomes today? So different immigrant groups that came in the later 1890s, they faced racism, right? We've seen some of those political cartoons. We just saw that one with the Irish Catholics. Is that something that happens today? Maybe not necessarily with Irish Catholics, but has racism ended against immigrants? No. It's the whole thing at the beginning of the, when I was talking about history doesn't really change, just the players within it change. These same themes come up about. Now for this essay, you're going to need at least 4 sources and 6 quotes. So you can use 6 sources, whatnot, but this is what you'll need to construct it. For industrialization, you'll need 1 historical account or a piece of evidence that describes the social outcome of industrialization. Henry Ford wages would be one example, right? What the outcome of him increasing the minimum wage to $5. Absolute, what?
Is this like the whole slide on the
No, so it says essay rubric, and so it's the rubric with the essay question and this information as well. You'll need 1 historical account of an economic outcome from industrialization. Wages, I'm trying to think. What was the, what was the other, we did Henry Ford wages, Carnegie, I'll look it up. And then you'll need 1 contemporary source or quote showing similarity or difference, comparing it, whether it's similar or different to what you've selected. And we have that minimum wages article from Forbes about Seattle, and I'm going to find 2 more articles. Definitely only use articles from this class. If you find something that you think is beyond fantabulous, you can bring it to me. But if you all of a sudden show up with a piece of evidence I've never seen before, no way. Immigration, same thing. 1 historical account, a social outcome, an economic outcome, and then a contemporary. So sit with this for a moment. Any questions?
We can go all the way to 10?
Oh, thank you, actually, Donna. The first part is standard, vocab. Second part, there's a short answer, which it's gonna be like 2 or 3 sentences, because I really want you to focus on writing this essay. Amy?
Any multiple choice?
No multiple choice. Sorry.
You said you can bring the study guide?
Yes, so, you can bring the study guide with the terms and those questions. And those questions that were asked on the study guide, I would still have studied those terms and know those terms, because you don't want to spend 40 minutes trying to do vocab when you have an essay that's, I still have to assess how much it's gonna be worth. A majority of the grade though. So for the essay portion, what you can bring to class, what you need to bring to class, is these 6 points that you are gonna address. I would come with an outline of, what's the first part of an essay? Introduction, so something what your thesis is.
Yep.
And then I'd come with an outline and just put it together during class. So, yes, Amy.
So by 6 points, that is.
Yeah, so it's at least a 6-paragraph essay, it could be 8. That's why I'm saying, get it going.
Is this gonna be on a off day?
Well, no, like minimum 6 with everything
So
together.
this is on a Friday.
It is on block day?
No. So that's why I'm saying, I'm giving you guys time, come together with it pretty much prepared.
Wait.
Yeah, Amy.
This is like next Friday.
This Friday. Whoa. So all these sources, you guys should have your annotations.
How come you didn't tell us this before the break?
She wasn't here. She had
Well, she could've given us
It would have been the Friday before the break, but she had to say.
Yeah. You have 5 days to find 6 quotes from sources you've already read. You got this. You come to class with it pretty much drawn out. Plenty of time.
Is there
Gusto.
any like length on the paragraphs?
No. Okay. Just as long as you have your claim, your evidence, and then what from the evidence kind, analysis, explanation. Yeah.
So on average, it's at least 3 sentences per paragraph, right? Basically.
All right. Last question, Malachi. So you need to have these quotes, however you structure it in your paragraphs. If you want to write a paragraph, the social and economic outcomes from industrialization included this. Put your source and then analyze that. And that's one paragraph. And then the second paragraph, that's contemporary. That compares it to contemporary issues. Yeah, and I've scanned and put them online, the readings we've been doing. Everything's online. Okay,
One last question.
yes, Amy.
How come this wasn't scheduled to be put on?